Welcome, everyone, and thank you for joining. This is the National Girls Collaborative Project National Webinar, EngineerGirl Ambassadors, Empowering High Schoolers and Inspiring Young Girls. We're so excited to have you join us here today. This is our first webinar of the new year, and we have some great content and speakers who share about this fantastic program with you. So thank you to those who introduced yourself over in the chat. It's great to see we've got some representation all the way from the East Coast all the way over to where I am on the West Coast and places in between, and a great mix of students and parents and community members and Science Center staff, as well as other educators. So thank you so much for joining us today. My name is Marissa Garcia. I'm here on behalf of the National Girls Collaborative Project. And just to give you some logistics, we are recording this webinar. We will post it on our website after completion, along with any other resources associated with the webinar. And we will go ahead and get started. So I'm going to end the poll on your screen. You can continue to introduce yourself over in the chat. We will also use the chat for questions, so feel free to type in there throughout the presentation. All right, so just to give you a little bit of information about the National Girls Collaborative Project, the National Girls Collaborative Project is the vision of the National Girls Collaborative Project is to bring together organizations committed to encouraging girls to pursue careers in science, technology, engineering, mathematics, and computer science. The photos you see here are just one example of how we facilitate discussion among stakeholders by offering structured networking activities at every NGCP and local collaborative event. During collaboration networking, dynamic discussions between individuals matching needs and resources can highlight ways for organizations to work together to impact the youth they are serving. We all know that there is a diversity of high-quality resources available, and many of you have little time to search for the strategies and content to improve your program. NGCP helps you address this need via our website, our newsletters, online databases, social media, and webinars just like this one. NGCP also seeks to strengthen the capacity of programs by sharing exemplary practices, research, and program models. When programs are stronger and more sustainable, girls are better served. We distribute these resources in an accessible format via Train the Trainer programs, partnerships, and online platforms. And finally, we use the leverage of a network and collaboration of girl-serving STEM programs and champions to create the tipping point for gender equity in STEM. The National Girls Collaborative Project engages in a number of activities virtually and nationally, as well as through local collaboratives. NGCP partners with organizations to scale and deliver content such as the Leap into Science National Network in partnership with the Franklin Institute, and Crypto Club in partnership with the University of Chicago, both funded by the National Science Foundation, serving hundreds of educators via statewide networks. NGCP manages the Connectory, the largest national database of STEM opportunities. The Connectory also provides a way for program providers to connect and collaborate with each other. FabFems is an international database of female role models from many STEM fields. They are passionate about the work they do and ready to connect with programs to spark girls' interests. NGCP is also working with the Lyda Hill Philanthropies and has launched the If Then Collection, a digital library housing photos, videos, and other media of women in STEM fields. These media are available at no cost. We offer regular webinars such as this one, focused on research and exemplary practices to help our networks grow and thrive. Locally, state collaborative leadership teams often convene for educators, researchers, and professional development, as well as mini grants for innovative projects when funding is available, and they distribute their own regular newsletters, spotlighting local resources. The National Girls Collaborative Project has been partially funded by the National Science Foundation since 2002. We began as the Northwest Girls Collaborative Project focused on Washington and Oregon State, and then as we presented our collaboration model to others, we were invited to expand across the United States. While NGCP programs and partners are located in every state, we have collaborative leadership teams in 41 states. Today, NGCP facilitates collaboration between more than 38,000 organizations, serving 20 million girls and 12 million boys as well, since many of the organizations serving girls are also serving boys with engaging STEM curriculum and activities. So now it is my pleasure to introduce our speakers for today. We have Dr. Simil Raghavan, who directs the Inclusive, Diverse, and Equitable Engineering for All initiative for the National Academy of Engineering. She earned her PhD in biomedical engineering from Johns Hopkins University. Dr. Raghavan started her career with the NAE as a policy fellow in 2007, where she began supporting the NAE's EngineerGirl initiatives. Through over 13 years with NAE, she has expanded EngineerGirl into an extensive outreach platform and has directed numerous initiatives to engage marginalized youth in engineering careers. We're also joined by Mary Mathias, who is an Associate Program Officer with the National Academy of Engineering working on EngineerGirl. She joined the NAE staff in November 2017 and previously worked for the American Astronomical Society and the Association of Science and Technology Centers. Mary has a bachelor's degree in aerospace engineering and a master's in museum studies. We also have today Krista Riccio, who is a K-5 Makerspace Program Specialist in the Los Angeles area. In addition, Krista teaches making via Outschool.com. She is also a teacher of meditation for kids and families. Krista has a Bachelor's of Science in Industrial Design and is a self-proclaimed biomimicry junkie. And Krista serves as a sponsor for Faye, who is our EngineerGirl Ambassador representative today. Faye Liu is currently a junior in high school. She discovered the EngineerGirl Ambassador program while attending the Society for Women Engineers High School Leadership Academy. She was inspired to join the program by her parents, who are both scientists and who have always encouraged her to question the world around her. As an EngineerGirl Ambassador, Faye has helped her school district set up an online makerspace program during the COVID-19 pandemic. In this program, she and other mentors lead elementary school students in making simple projects from materials they can find in their own homes. And we'll hear more about Krista's project when she presents a little bit later in the presentation. But for now, I'm going to turn it over to Mary, who will share a little bit of background information about the EngineerGirl initiative and the Ambassador program.
All right, thanks, Marissa. And thank you to the National Girls Collaborative Project for having us here today. So before we talk about the ambassadors, let's start with a quick overview of EngineerGirl. So EngineerGirl is a project of the National Academy of Engineering, which Marissa just told us about, and it grew out of the NAE's Celebration of Women in Engineering project, which included a national summit in 1999 and an informational website. Fast forward a few years, and a new committee on diversity in engineering took over and decided that redoing the website to focus on middle school girls was the way to go. And then in 2001, that new site called EngineerGirl was launched. The mission of EngineerGirl is to bring national attention to the exciting opportunities that engineering represents for girls and women, and to inform, inspire, and support girls, and to encourage them to consider the rewards of an engineering education and career. EngineerGirl is not just an informational website anymore, though it still has a ton of resources. One early site component that has stayed on the site since its inception and grown significantly is the Gallery of Women Engineers. So right now, over 450 women in engineering have profiles on the EngineerGirl site, and these women are in a variety of fields and jobs at all levels of their careers. And their profiles are a way for young girls to see examples of what they could do as an engineer and to see someone who looks like them or has the same interests as them as an engineer. And then they can see themselves as engineers too. The women in the gallery also volunteer their time for interviews with students or interacting with students in other ways if teachers or schools reach out. These engineers also answer questions that are submitted through the Ask an Engineer feature of the EngineerGirl site. Site visitors can submit questions through the site that are then assigned to engineers in the gallery. and posted for everyone to see. We also have a monthly featured question where multiple engineers will chime in and share their thoughts and experiences. And EngineerGirl also hosts an annual writing contest for students in grades 3 through 12. The topic changes every year, but they all revolve around engineering's impact on society and the world. So for example, this year's contest, for which submissions are due February 1st, asks students to submit a piece of writing that salutes engineering's role in tackling the challenges posed by COVID-19. Then, of course, we have the Ambassadors Program, which we're going to talk about in depth today. So the EngineerGirl Ambassadors Program launched in 2018 and is a leadership development program. So EngineerGirl provides training and support to help high school girls plan, promote, and implement a project in their local community that will provide younger girls with engineering role models and practical experience with engineering design. In addition to the training and up to $250 of project funding, the ambassadors gain access to role models, mentors, networking, and become part of a community of like-minded students from across the country. The ambassadors program has a lot of pieces, but it starts with the application and connecting with a local sponsor. The application is pretty detailed. It's set up kind of like a grant application. The prospective ambassador provides information about her project idea, how the project will impact her personally, and the impact the project will have on her community. Each ambassador must apply with a local sponsor who is an adult in her community who commits to helping guide her and support her project. And we call this person a sponsor, but there's no monetary commitment. This person could be a teacher, librarian, scout leader, engineer, or another adult who's just committed to helping the ambassador with her project. If the student's facilitating a hands-on activity as part of their project, the sponsor is ideally someone affiliated with the location of that activity, so the school or the library, like that. The sponsor acts as a mentor for the ambassador, supports the ambassador, oversees her work to make sure the events are safe and effective, and helps ensure the ambassador has the resources she needs to complete her proposed project. Before the ambassadors really jump into their projects after they've been accepted, we provide them with training on things like choosing high-quality activities, teaching strategies, and gender and cultural responsiveness. Each ambassador is also paired with an engineer mentor with whom they meet along with their sponsor to discuss their project in depth and get feedback and suggestions from a working engineer. The first 2 years of the ambassador program, we met in person at the Society of Women Engineers Conference for this training, which took place over 2 days. Obviously, this year was a little different. So the training took place over Zoom and was spread out over a few months. We covered a topic every other week. The ambassadors weren't able to meet at SWE, but we still wanted them to have that connection to engineers. So the engineer mentor meetings also took place over Zoom, which the ambassadors seemed to really enjoy and find helpful. And we arranged a panel of engineers to talk about how networking and connections helped them get to where they are today. We don't know what next year's program will look like at this point, but it might be a combination of virtual and in-person training. Another component of the training is hands-on practice leading an engineering activity for kids. When we were at the Society of Women Engineers Conference, this took place first with their sponsors and chaperones who traveled with them, who were delighted to act like students, while the ambassadors practiced walking them through an activity. Then the ambassadors got more experience during the conference's Outreach Expo, where lots of local middle school students came in, and companies and schools and organizations had activities set up for them, and the ambassadors decided on an activity and then ran a booth. This year, since we were virtual, the ambassadors were broken into small groups, and they created virtual icebreaker activities that they could then use in their programs. So each month, the ambassadors also submit a journal, which briefly describes what they've accomplished that month, what challenges they ran into, what successes they've had or what they're proud of, and then what they plan to do next. Each journal gets a response, either from Simil and me, or one of the volunteers we've engaged to help this year. And we can answer questions, point them to resources, and just generally, provide encouragement to keep being the awesome leaders that they are. This is an important part of the mentoring the ambassadors receive as part of the program. They can check in with questions at any time, not just with the journals, and we can follow their progress and provide connections and resources. This is also a significant part of being in the ambassador community. The girls know that they're not doing these projects or going through this alone. Another part of the community is the community of the girls themselves. The ambassadors love being connected with other girls who are also into engineering and have the same kind of drive. They might not have the same kind of group at their school or in their town, so being a part of the ambassador community is a huge plus for a lot of them. As they get to know each other, this is also a group that they feel comfortable going to for advice about their projects, college questions, and other things like that. We have a few different channels right now to encourage this community. We have a Slack channel set up, which is used for announcements and questions and discussions. For example, the icebreaker activity, the ambassador groups each had their own place to chat and develop those icebreakers. Every month we have an informal gathering virtually where the ambassadors can just have fun, play games, and continue getting to know each other. The last few gatherings have used the GatherTown platform. The ambassadors also have a group text that's just them, no sponsors or EngineerGirl staff getting in the way. Last year's group of ambassadors set that up spontaneously, just using a regular text chain. And this year's, again, set it up using GroupMe. We also have a LinkedIn group for all current and former ambassadors so they can continue sharing their progress and networking as they move through their careers. We encourage the ambassadors to set up a LinkedIn account once they're at least 16, which is the minimum age for the site, as another way for them to stay in touch after they leave the program. I'll turn it over to Simil to talk about our Rising Stars.
Thank you, Mary. So as Mary said, I just want to share a little bit about where we're hoping all of you might come in and join us, and also explain our Rising Stars campaign. So Rising Stars is the term the steering committee coined to identify potential student candidates for the Ambassadors Program. As Mary mentioned, the program is a youth development program, and we want to help students do things that they didn't know they were capable of. However, because we're a national program and part of the National Academy of Engineering, it is also often viewed as a recognition program, and it's easy for a lot of students to look at the ambassador's application and think that the program is for shining stars. So while shining stars have really impressive resumes and a great long list of experiences, recognition, and support within engineering and in the STEM world, rising stars have great potential, but they may be somewhat overlooked or need a little encouragement to realize it and fully gain that confidence in leadership and engineering. These are the students who are also more likely to be diverse, and they may lack a lot of engineering role models that could cause them to question whether they fit the mold of an engineer. The shining stars are really wonderful because they serve as an inspiration for others. They bring recognition to what girls are capable of. But one of the things that we would really like to do as part of the Ambassadors Program is to help turn rising stars into shining stars. And it's also true that for those students who are already shining stars, they may already have access to most of the resources that we can provide for them. So participation in the program won't benefit them as much. In order to help those rising stars shine, we not only need to find those rising stars, but we need to convince them to apply, which they may be less likely to do. So to reach those girls, we're hoping that people like many of you on this webinar and those of you that work with schools and after-school programs and networks will help us to identify and reach those young women. We're looking for those connected and really concerned adults to mindfully and intentionally reach out to marginalized youth. And this takes someone who knows a girl well enough to say, hey, I think you would be really great for this program. Or maybe they say, you know, you may want to consider working on this particular project, or I would be open to sponsoring you if you'd like to apply for this, or maybe I know someone else who could sponsor you, or even maybe if you'd like me to, I could sit down and walk through the application with you. Being that person in someone's life could be the thing that opens up opportunities for them that they didn't know existed. And we would love to connect with those of you in schools and out-of-school programs who know the young women who would most benefit from this sort of programming and can help us reach them. For those of you in high school, it's a good chance for you to think about whether this program would most benefit you, or if you know of others who would really benefit from this type of connection to the engineering world. And I'm going to let Mary go ahead and finish the rest of what she was having to say. Oh, actually,
I think we're actually turning it over
are we turning it
to
Krista? I'm sorry. Great.
Yes, we're going to turn it over to Krista and Faye. So Faye is the high school ambassador who's joining us today to share about her project, and Krista is her sponsor who's supporting that work. So I'm going to let them take it away.
Yeah, so I'm one of the high school ambassadors for the EngineerGirl program. And so each ambassador has a project, kind of like an outreach project for their community. Usually it's for providing girls with more access to STEM, or maybe just having them meet more girls that have similar mindsets as them. And so my project before COVID was creating a makerspace program at one of our local elementary schools where girls could just come in after school and start building stuff and working together and trying new things. But now with COVID, we moved it to on Zoom. So we have a Zoom session once a month where some of my mentors, which are my friends in high school, we help mentor these girls on how to build simple projects. Like last month in December, we made graham cracker houses, and before that, we've done things such as introducing them to 3D printing.
So hello, my name is Krista Riccio, and I work with Faye on her project. I'm her sponsor, and it's been so wonderful to watch the enthusiasm and the fortitude during this uncertain time, and from Faye and all her friends. So we kind of rolled with it. We made lemonade out of lemons, and we're doing a monthly program. And we had one in-person session before COVID hit, and it was wonderful. Girls came, they wanted to sign up, and they're really excited about it. And then we went online. So we're learning as we go how to get people enrolled online. And the support has been wonderful from EngineerGirl. I feel like any question we've had has been answered, and she's making great progress, and I'm just kind of in the background watching her do all this. It's really fun to see her just take off. So I'm really thankful that we have this opportunity to work together. These are just some of the projects we've done, but the great thing is that when we went online, we kind of had to improvise, and Faye and her group from high school just decided to come up with a website where people can land and learn more about the project. They came up with this poster themselves to advertise around the school, and we used this image on the website. And we collaborated. I taught Makerspace at the elementary school where her brother goes to school, and we came up with project ideas based on our experience there. And she created a monthly newsletter where we push it through the school system, and kids can learn about these projects. It's completely free. They can sign up online and come with a friend and do projects together and create a community of people that are doing STEAM projects on their own after school. So it's been really fun. We try to use things that they can easily find around their house, because you know, when we did it in the classroom, it was great. I had all kinds of resources. But now we've had to adjust our project types so that any child, any household, K through 5, can kind of jump in and use what they have at home. We do post some material lists in the newsletter, like if you need spaghetti, we tell you that ahead of time, right? But most of the things are things that they can, we can post a list in the beginning of class and they can run and get them. So, but we try to, you know, make it a great learning experience, but really fun, and get kids to get introduced to these engineering concepts early on. So that's it.
Thank you so much for sharing a bit about your project and how you kind of shifted when COVID-19 hit and changed from in-person delivery of, you know, makerspace activities to this online version. So we're actually going to transition now into Q&A, and we have a few questions kind of prepped that we're going to ask, and then we're going to get into the questions from the audience. So keep those questions coming in the chat. We are keeping track of what you're asking, and we will answer them. But we're going to start with some questions for Faye and Krista about their experiences as the Engineer Girl and the sponsor. So the first question is for Faye, and we'd like to hear a little bit about why you decided to apply to become an Engineer Girl Ambassador.
Yeah, so I think it was 2019. I actually went to the Society of Women Engineers High School Leadership Academy because my dad recommended me to check out their site, and I thought it was interesting. So I signed up, and when I went, I met a lot of girls there, and some of them there were Engineer Girl Ambassadors. And I just remember talking to them, and then I just remembered the program. And I think later that night I looked up the program, and what made me really want to apply was I really liked the experiences I had at SWE, and I was thinking if there were like more opportunities where I could talk with girls who had similar mindsets as me or were going through similar things, it would just be a wonderful experience.
Thank you. And related to that, kind of, Krista, how did you decide to become Faye's sponsor? What was that process like for you?
I think when Faye approached me, I was actually considering doing an after-school class, and so this was a great. She had already figured it out for me, so actually it was wonderful because we did have an after-school program once a week, and I wanted to support women in STEM. I feel like when I was a young student, I was interested in biology and design, and I wasn't sure which one to do, and there weren't too many people to talk to about it. So I just kind of discovered this industrial design path, luckily, but you know, I just thought, well, this is a great way for me to give back to the community and be a part of supporting girls and pursuing their interests. I know so many girls at our elementary school are very into science and very into math and engineering, so it was a great chance to help.
Great. So the next question is for Faye. How have your sponsor, so how has Krista and any of the other role models and mentors you've met in the process, some of the engineers you've maybe met, or your experience going to the SWE conference, how has that influenced your experience and supported your work and your interest?
Well, I guess part of it is just knowing that there are people out there that have been able to succeed, so by that logic, you should be able to, even if it seems hard. They've made it past. So with their help, you can probably do that too. I remember one of the engineers at our panel for Engineer Girl said that she failed her calculus class 2 times. And I thought that was really encouraging since I'm having some trouble with calculus too. But if she could do it, I can probably do it too. And sometimes it's like not that easy to see, but I'm hoping that as a mentor for other younger kids, and with my mentors, I'm hoping that I can help people understand their potential and what they can do too.
Thank you. That's great. I love that story of the engineer who admitted she failed calculus twice. You know, failure is always a part of every learning experience, and what's important is, you know, figuring out how to persevere through those hard moments. That's great. I'm going to turn this next question over to Krista. How does it feel sort of being a mentor to Faye, and kind of what is?
I would say that I guess what I love about doing this is that I don't have to be right. I don't have to have all the answers, you know. And I think I'm in teaching a lot of times, you know, I think it's making me a better teacher. There's kind of two schools of thought. One is the teacher delivers information for the student to learn, and the other is to provide opportunities for a student to grow and learn by doing. And that's really what it feels like to me, is just allowing a space for this to happen. I'm not really doing the work. She's doing all the work and the thinking and the creative. I mean, we collaborate, but it's just wonderful because it's a great role to be in. It's like you're scaffolding the student. You're not creating a learning opportunity ahead of time and having the student fit into that framework. So I guess I would just say that it's good for everyone involved. You know, I feel like I've learned a lot, and definitely Faye has too. And we've just kind of, it has evolved a lot since we started. It's changed a lot, and it's really growing into something that functions in this time, this strange time we're in. So it's actually very rewarding.
Thank you. And I'm going to kind of sort of ask the same question to Faye. You touched upon it a little bit in talking about how, you know, you're thinking about what your work and the project you're doing means to the younger students that you serve as a role model for. But what does it kind of mean to you to have a role?
Yeah, I think I've said this already before, but it's kind of just knowing that you can do it, and maybe when you're feeling down, they can help encourage you. And I remember at one of our sessions, one girl was about ready to give up, but the other girl and I there, we were able to encourage her to keep going. And it's just kind of like at moments of like those moments where you can just keep persevering and keep going, and then you can finally see what your hard work has turned into. And I think it's really hard to give up after a while, but I think with a mentor it's easier to keep going, because you know that someone's looking out for you and that they'll be there when you need help. And
Thank you. So we're going to turn it over to some questions from our audience. So give me just a moment to take a look at some of the things that have been asked. And I also know some of our presenters have been responding in the chat, but we'll also voice over those responses. Okay, so we had a question from Meg Drager asking, does the Ambassador program run essentially the length of the school year, approximately August to May, with the application submitted in the spring prior to it?
so yeah, it is about the length of a school year. I think you start the program in July, actually, and so there are monthly journals for you to submit tracking your progress, your accomplishments, and your challenges, and how you're going to try to overcome those challenges. So other engineers in the program can give you feedback on how you can overcome those challenges or to congratulate you on your progress. And so, yeah, it's about a journal a month, and I think there's supposed to be like a final thing at the end. I'm not exactly sure what, but
I can jump in on what the final report is. So the students all have different projects. Some of them are doing projects that go through the school year. Others, particularly when we're not dealing with a global pandemic, arrange for summer camps, in-person workshops over the summer, or during different points throughout the year. So when the student has completed her project as she planned it out, that's when she submits the final report. But we ask those final reports to be submitted by the end of August. So that will complete their year as an ambassador.
You.
May I add something?
Thank
Just real quick. That phase project was, it's kind of evolving into something that might even last after she graduates from high school, which is really cool. She's thinking about making it a part of her club at school, a STEAM club, that's a permanent relationship with the younger grades in the district. And we were even thinking about opening it up to other kids outside the district. So, you know, these projects can really take on a life of their own and keep going, which is wonderful.
Thank you. Yeah, that's exciting to hear that, you know, it may continue on beyond just the commitment with the EngineerGirl Ambassadors program. That's great. We have another question here from Karen North. How many girls, Karen is the co-coordinator for the Houston NCWIT AIC community, and she's wondering how many girls in the ambassador program are also a part of the NCWIT.
I don't know that right off the top of my head. I know that there are girls that participate in a similar program through NCWIT, which I believe is called the Aspire IT program. And while we love the projects that the girls do through that program, we also feel like a lot of the resources we can provide are similar to what NCWIT provides girls. So we don't want to overlap too much if we don't need to. So we do try to provide our resources for girls who maybe don't have those opportunities in other programs.
Thank you. We've had a few questions come through the chat about the age range of girls who can apply for the EngineerGirl Ambassadors program.
So I think I mentioned in chat that the age range is grades 9 through 12. So when they apply in the spring, they should be either a rising 9th grader through a rising 12th grader. We don't want them to apply in their senior year when they're going to be off in college during the year of their ambassador program. But they need to be able to, they need to already be in high school for us to work with them remotely the way that we do. And then the projects that they develop are for girls in upper elementary through middle school. So say 3rd grade through 8th grade.
Thank you. This next question comes from Zoe, and I am going to ask it actually to Faye because she's curious about how you went and asked for a sponsor. How did you just?
I think that one was actually pretty easy for me. I knew that the elementary school that I went to and my brother went to had a makerspace program. My plan was just to create another part of the makerspace program that was for girls. So, and I remember my brother talking about the makerspace program. So I just asked him to send a note to Krista, and I just
Thank you. All right, we have a question from Adrian. I believe this was answered in the chat, but we will just make sure we say it as well in case folks missed it. Are the
Yes, that we want the sponsors to be local so that they can meet regularly and be involved with the project of the ambassador.
Awesome. We have another question here from Lily Pattinson. Can more than one girl work together on a project, or is it an individual?
I'm actually not sure about that. I don't think anyone in my area has ever been an Engineer Girl Ambassador. I think I'm the first person at my school to be an Engineer Girl Ambassador. But I do have some of my friends help me with mentoring some of the girls in our Zoom sessions. So I don't know if that.
I'll jump in there, Marissa. So the application process is individual because we recognize one ambassador with her sponsor, and part of that participation as an ambassador is participating in the training program. And when that is in person, that includes traveling. And so we have to make sure that we can allot the travel to, whether it be the SWE conference or if we do the training in person at the National Academy's facility in the future, for the ambassador and her sponsor. That doesn't mean, however, that we don't hope and expect that the ambassador will recruit others to help her with her project. So we've had plenty of ambassadors who have recruited their classmates to help in mentoring younger students and started high school engineering clubs that then go back and mentor middle school girls and things like that. So we do encourage the ambassadors to get other people involved. And also, just as a note, part of participating as an ambassador includes $250 with which to use to start your project. And so that goes directly to the ambassador.
And how many ambassadors are you aiming to have?
I'm trying to be slow to give Mary a chance to jump in if she wants to talk, but I think it's difficult to say right now because it depends on whether we're going to be able to have an in-person component. This year we had 23 ambassadors, and I think for next year we may try to keep the number similar, about 24 to 25 ambassadors, depending on what travel is going to look like. I think we're still trying to figure out exactly how many we will include this year, and if we can increase the number, then we will.
Thank you. We have a question here from Meg.
So go ahead, Krista.
Go ahead, Mary. I'm sorry.
The sponsors are welcome to attend the training. When it's in person, the sponsor, we hope, will travel with the ambassador to the in-person event and take part in the training with the ambassadors. This year when we were virtual, the sponsors were invited to all of the Zoom trainings as well. It's not required for the sponsors, but as Krista mentioned, you know, there's a lot that sponsors can learn from it as well.
Thank you. And I didn't see this question come through in the chat, but I'm kind of curious. Simil, you presented about sort of the search for rising stars in applicants. Are you able to share a little bit about what sort of makes it?
Whew, that's a tough question to say. There's so many different things that can make an applicant stand out. But I think in general, we're looking for applications that, for one, are feasible. I mean, we can't accept ambassadors that have a project that's just so big that it isn't reasonable for them to do in the course of a year as a high school student. They have to continue through their high school, so they can't work on it 8 hours a day, 5 days a week. But also that have a potential for impact. So usually in the application, we want the student to explain how their project will impact their community. So we're looking for students who have thought about what their community needs and how they can make a difference. And then the next thing we also look for is a chance for us to really help that ambassador. And this is where the Rising Stars come in. We want to know that by participating in this program, they are going to get some benefit out of it. So those, you know, I love Shining Stars, and there are certainly many Shining Stars that are part of the Ambassadors program. And that sometimes we hope that they're going to improve and shine brighter by participating. We do find, though, that those who have already participated in so many of these similar types of development programs, that they feel like they already have all of those resources, that it's not as beneficial for them in that environment. And so we do look for those students who really show that they can have benefit by talking with engineers and by working with other students who are working on similar projects, and by working closely with their sponsor mentor. So we look at all of that in the application to see whether there's potential for us to make a difference in the project. You know, if sometimes students will propose projects that are going to happen whether they are an ambassador or not. And in that sense, we sometimes will feel like that's not the right program for an EngineerGirl ambassador, because we want to be able to support and help them do something they might not have believed that they could do before.
Thank you. So I'm going to pause for just a moment and give the audience a chance to type in any of their last minute questions. We're, you know, approaching sort of getting towards the end portion of our hour in this webinar today. So if you have any
I see a question that from Meg Drager, that when and where will the application be posted? And that's such an amazing question that I can't believe that we didn't mention it. The call for applications is already on the EngineerGirl website on www.engineergirl.org. There is a call right now for applications to become an ambassador, and also the writing contest with the deadline ends on February 1st. The deadline for the Ambassadors program is March 1st.
Fabulous, thank you. And I saw my colleague Kata just put the link to the application there in the chat. So feel free to apply yourself or share it with any fantastic rising and shining stars that you know who are interested in the program. We are approaching the end here, so I'm going to take us just through the closing of our slides, but we do have a little bit of time, so if questions come up, we will make sure we're here till the end of the hour to support you. But I just wanted to say thank you so much for joining us today, learning about this great program, hearing from Faye, Krista, Simmel, and Mary. We hope you found it informative and that you share it widely with the people you know who might be interested in applying for this program. I also wanted to let you know that the National Girls Collaborative Project has an upcoming webinar at the end of the month, January 27th. Reach across the stars, meet your female space and science heroes virtually. This webinar will be featuring an augmented reality app that was made in collaboration between NASA and now I am totally going to forget who it is, which is so terrible, but check it out on our website and feel free to sign up. It will be a lot of fun. We're going to have a panel of female scientists as well as a surprise astronaut guest who will speak about their experiences working with NASA and their excitement of being featured in that app. All right, we have a question coming up here. Is this meant for students? I'm not sure if the question is about the upcoming webinar or about EngineerGirl Ambassadors. The Ambassadors program is meant for 9th through 12th grade students, The webinars are open to anyone in the public, and they are free. So you are welcome to attend whether you are a student or not. And thank you so much, everyone, for coming. We appreciate you joining us, and we hope to see you again for another National Girls Collaborative Project webinar, and we hope that you take a moment to share the Engineer Girl